What is happening, guys? Oh, it's a Thursday edition, huh? Thursday edition, Film Junkie Live. Holy crap! Well, I figured why not. After what got released today, it was kind of like, all right, let's talk about this. So why not? On a little earlier, of course, because I figured, wrapped up work and decided, all right, let's just go on a little bit earlier. And let's talk about some things that happened today, huh? This is the Chris Terrio edition. And sorry if anybody thinks that Chris Terrio is showing up for an interview. I saw some of the comments earlier. It's not like Chris Terrio is coming on. We're just going to go over the Vanity Fair article. That's what we're doing. But hey, Chris, if you're out there, you know, you want to just have a drink, relax, and come on to a live stream that's very relaxed. That'd be pretty sweet. Anyways, what is up, Anthony? How you guys doing? Yo, what is up? What's up, Power? Yeah, no shit. What's going on? Brethren, I'm doing pretty good. Today was a pretty, today went fast. That's for sure. Loxu, how you doing? Yeah, figured why not. I was like, should I just do a video on it or should I go live? And I said, fuck it. We're doing it live. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, you did. What is up, Ron? How you doing? Hello. How's it going? We got Jess. How you doing? Sure. Men with power. I know. That's good. Mr. Diesel, what's up? Yeah. How's everybody doing? Oh, yeah, I know. If only, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. He's trending in politics. Gotta love that. You really gotta love that. But anyways, guys, all right. So it's not gonna be like a normal show, like the normal format. Well, somewhat maybe. We'll let some people, you know, get in here and everything like that. But you know, I just figured if I was gonna do the show, you know, just if I was gonna do it live or I was gonna just go over it in a regular video, and I thought, we'll do it live. Why not? So let's just have some fun with it. But I appreciate you guys clicking in as per usual. Make sure you hit that like, thumbs up, hit that notification bell so you know when I'm doing this stuff. If you want to join Film Junkie, hit the join button. Why not? Do all that. And then, of course, if you want to join the Patreon, and, of course, thank you to the patrons out there. You guys are awesome. I see some of you out there like Bradley, like Carrie. Some of you, and then, of course, some members like Mr. Diesel, Eric, who's also a patron. You know, you guys are awesome, just like, you know, even Jose right there. So I appreciate it, guys. And Mattia. Yeah, do all that. And then, of course, if you want to get yourself some merchandise, you got shirts and stickers and mugs and masks all down below. So good stuff. So, all right. So as we're waiting for, you know, other people to like start joining up right here. What's going on, Mike G? How you doing, buddy? Let's I'm not going to go over all the tweets, but I thought I would show like a couple of I mean, first off, man, all right, let's talk about our boy. I mean, you know, we're all wondering about Affleck. I mean, look at this guy. Look at this fucking guy right here on the set of his new movie. What the fuck? Did he just de-age himself like 20 years? I mean, he looks 20 years younger than he does in Zack Snyder's Justice League at the end. I mean, my God. I mean, this might as well just be like, hey, it's just a couple years later after Dazed and Confused. Look at this guy. Look at this stud right here. Man. Just saying. Just saw that today, and I'm like, look at this guy, man. And, you know, I know a lot of people are like, oh, what does Affleck say? What does Ben have to say? What does Ben have to say? I kind of wonder myself. Well, think about it, guys. Think about it. Think about what Ben Affleck is thinking. Remember that video that was going around? Him talking about streaming and where everything's heading, and he was pretty much spot on back in 2003. So it kind of makes you wonder when it comes to HBO Max, when he's seeing like, okay, this is where it's all going, this is where we're all heading, and then you hear Ann Sarnoff say some shit like, oh yeah, well, you know, we're not going to do all this and do that. I mean, come on, you better believe that he was kind of like, hey, what the fuck, seriously, you know, there's Affleck right there. Come on. It's time for him to speak. as he does. I don't even know what that dance is called. But, speaking of dances, guys, I mean, our boy Zemo here, he's got some fucking moves, right? They released the Zemo cut, by the way. Let's do the Zemo. I mean, mine's similar, right? He's got it. Let's do the Zemo. I kind of want him to win now. Yeah, fuck the Falcon and Winter Soldier. I want Zemo to win. Because of his dance moves alone. That's what I'm talking about. So that was pretty funny too. Oh, and then of course the haters are out there. We'll talk about those too. But, just not much. Yeah. So that's pretty much. I wasn't going to show like pretty much everything that. Oh, yeah. And then there was like Sony made a deal with Netflix that said, fuck it. If we're going to do some streaming service stuff, we're going to go with the biggest streaming service out there. Why not? And then a new episode from Mr. Hulkenborg, Mr. Junkie XL, for the Cyborgs theme, which, of course, is one of the best themes, I would say. So, good goddamn stuff. Anyways, guys. All right. So, we're in there. We're doing that. Ugh, I know. You're laughing. Getting killed. Yes. Yes. Exactly, Jose. He killed, so many people. But you know what? His dance moves just totally flipped me. I'm like, you know what? I'm with this guy because we have similar dance moves, our silly little white boy moves that we have no rhythm. So, that's all. Good call for Sony. Yeah, but definitely a good call for Sony. Anyways, all right. All right. So let's get into the nitty gritty here. So, Mr. Chris Terrio. I mean, I told you guys, I was like, this is not gonna. It's when stuff was gonna happen. It's like, hey, this is not it. After the article, the THR article from Kim Masters, and I know there was like a thread out there that kind of, pushed back against it a little bit, which was fine. You could kind of see some of that information and kind of go, make your own conclusions when it comes to all that. Yeah, when it came to hearing about stuff and what the hell, and I mean, the fact that Chris Terrio now has like come out and he's finally saying stuff. I mean, hopefully, like I said, he's going to start making some rounds. Like, hey, let's start talking about this. Fuck this. I've been keeping quiet for about 5 years. I mean, the fact that the only thing that I really heard about Chris Terrio, one of the first things I heard when it came to Chris Terrio after Justice League came out from my source, my guy, the guy that hit me up, the very first thing he told me. Okay, and this was on like, I don't know, probably November 18th or 19th. I don't know. It was that weekend. It was the weekend that Justice League came out. And this is when I got first hit up by my source to Snyder before I even talked to Snyder. The first thing he said was Chris Terrio was worried that his career was going to be over with after Justice League. Like he was worried because of all the reception that happened. And apparently he hadn't even seen it yet. But he was worried that his career was going to be ended, like done. That was the first thing that I got told about Chris Terrio. So, yeah, that was pretty interesting to think about that. That was the first thing that I got told was about Chris Terrio. But, of course, he was keeping quiet for a bit. And then I, maybe heard something there. I know, get Terrio on the Vodka stream. Hey, if I can. You know what? He might pop up. He might pop up somewhere before that. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'll try. I'll be like, hey, Zach, hey, can you hook me up with, come on, man. Come on. See what happens. Anyway, so, yeah, it's just kind of funny to go down memory lane like that. 3.5 years ago, got hit up. Oh, yeah, Terrio thought his career was going to be ended because of what happened. So, poor guy. But now he's like, you know what? It's time for me to talk. So let's go through this interview right here. I'm sure it's not going to be the last one. Definitely not going to be the last one right here. So here's the interview right here. Justice League screenwriter Chris Terrio is super pissed off. Great title. Great fucking title. That's what I'm talking about. That's a good goddamn headline right there. Exclusive. Yes. That's big time exclusive. That warrants a, exclusivo to show up. Exclusivo! Yeah, he's pissed. He's mad and he's hunting. Remember that line in there. That's for damn sure. Oh, you got to love it. All right, so let's go through this article right here. All right. The Argo Oscar winner is tired of being hated by the haters, and he despises what happened to his DC films, too. There you go. Chris Terrio is not pulling his punches anymore. For 5 years, the Oscar-winning screenwriter of Argo kept his mouth shut about his work on the DC films Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League, even as scorn from critics and fans exacerbated already painful behind-the-scenes memories. Worst of all, he agreed with many of their complaints. See, that's the bad part. You know, anybody who tries to be creative, man, when you're taking in some of the negativity, I mean, it's hard. Yeah, everybody struggles with, man, do I really suck? I mean, it just comes with the gig when you're trying to be creative, and then you're getting scorned by, people who are way less talented than you. It is kind of shitty. Like, it's a shitty feeling, and then you start second guessing yourself and everything, and it really can put you in a bad place. And it seems like Terrio is kind of like one of those people that really kind of dwells on that stuff. He described the films that Warner Brothers released to theaters in 2016 and 2017 as incoherent misfires, undermined by corporate meddling, poor franchise planning, and tone-deaf decisions that prioritize costly VFX sequences over coherent storytelling. You go, Chris! That's right. Keep on saying that shit. Terrio believes that Zack Snyder's director's cuts of both are much stronger, if still imperfect, movies, an overall vindication of their work together. In an exclusive wide-ranging interview, the screenwriter said the Snyder Cut of Justice League, recently released as a 4-hour-plus event on HBO Max, righted a kind of cinematic wrong perpetrated by studio leadership that is now almost entirely moved on from Warner Brothers. Almost! That's the thing. Almost! And then we got other people like Anne, who doesn't have a plan, who does not have a plan. The studio did not, I love this. The studio did not provide any comment on his remarks. Yeah, no shit. Because they're fucking shitting themselves with the articles, with the stuff that's coming out this week. All right, so Terrio first joined the DC universe to rewrite the existing Batman vs. Superman script because it's Batman actor, the director of Argo. Who directed Argo? I don't remember. Ben Affleck. Had qualms about the project. I think the studio brought me in to appease Ben Affleck because they thought, okay, well, we have this movie star who is reluctant about doing this, so why don't we bring in his guy? That is kind of interesting, because I remember when this whole thing started, it seemed like Terio got brought in. I don't know, like who knows? It's always funny because you'll hear news about movies that are coming out in 2 weeks that go like, oh yeah, Black Widow cast so and so. It's like, what? The movie's coming out in July? What? But because the news always gets out there late, I always find it funny, though, when I see headlines that say so-and-so has been cast in a movie that's supposed to show up in 2 weeks. It's like, oh, you guys just caught wind of it. They just released that information. Okay, interesting. But I was trying to remember like the timeline, because I remember when it all started, and then I remember the news of Chris Terrio coming in to do some rewrites, and it seemed like it was already within production, but it probably was before production, I'm guessing. But so then you got the screenwriter was frank about trying to make sense of the film's warring heroes, turning their fight into a metaphor for a divided America while attempting to fix elements to found nonsensical or offensive. Studio officials then demanded that 30 minutes be removed from the theatrical cut, most likely because shorter runtimes mean more daily screenings, often resulting in a higher box office earnings. Terrio said that act sabotaged the narrative. That's right. If you took 30 minutes out of Argo, as they were from Batman Superman, it would make zero sense at all. Critics would say, what a lazy screenplay, because the characters don't have any motivations and it's not coherent. And I would agree with them. So there you go. Already going, hey, what the fuck? You're going to take out those 30 minutes? I mean, yeah, when they took out those 30 minutes, I mean, it took away that whole Lois subplot that connected a lot of dots, and even with the Africa scene and everything. I mean, Jesus Christ. Terrio hoped Justice League would be a better experience. He was wrong. Yeah. So Terrio thought that Justice League was going to be a much better experience, but sadly, wrong! That's WB right there saying that. Yeah, that's right. All right, so after watching Joss Whedon's version of the film, Terrio was so disgusted that he explored taking his name off the movie. Especially galling to him was the sidelining of Ray Fisher's tragic hero Cyborg, whose arc the actor himself had helped craft. So remember, we heard about this, how Terrio and Fisher kind of just like, let's do this thing. Let's collaborate on Cyborg's arc right here. It says Fisher has been outspoken for months about the experience making Justice League following years of silence. Now Terrio is doing the same. He said he bottled up his feelings about the theatrical cuts to avoid hurting their cast and crews. So you got to love these guys. They're trying to, they're thinking about others, unlike some people. Now that Snyder and Terrio's preferred versions of the films are available to the public, the screenwriter is finally opening up on how all it went wrong in the first place. So there you go. And there's that hero shot. Look at that hero shot. Never gets old. Never gets old, does it? So good. All right. So here we go. Vanity Fair. Zack Snyder's Justice League is now out in the world. How do you feel about it? And Chris says, I'm so happy and relieved that all these thousands of artists and craftspeople all over the world finally can have their work seen by the public, and all of the work that Zack and the actors put into it, this can now be seen. It's sort of a gift that we got from HBO Max because it wouldn't have been possible a few years ago. Thank God. And I always love it too. And like, oh yeah, there's some people out there say like, yeah, if it weren't for some people, we were going to have the Snyder cut like 2.5 years ago. It's like, yeah, but it wouldn't have been this. So relax. Can you point at something specific that you are glad gets a showcase in the new version? He said, Willem Dafoe's performance in the Aquaman story. See, that a lot of people, when we talk about who was removed, I know the emphasis goes on, the characters of color, which I get it, but we got to remember that Willem Dafoe, he got removed too. And he, for the small time that he's on the screen, he gives a pretty damn good performance, man. The way that he throws that trident down at Arthur's feet, I love that. I love how frustrated he is when he throws that trident down to his feet. It's like, yeah, there you go. That's what I like to see. And then we see him in Aquaman with a weird man bun. Anyways, obviously the character Iris West, played by Kiersey Clemons in the Flash rescue sequence, and most centrally, Ray Fisher's performance as Cyborg. It was always the heart of the film to me, and just meant so much to me personally because so much of my heart and life were put into that story. That is the thing about this version of Justice League, that none of it was done cynically or a money grab or an attempt to sell Happy Meal toys. Oh, I love that. That's always been the thing. Like, remember when we talk about it's a Quindan, but okay, Jose, it's a Quindan. Yeah, but he says Trident. So I'm gonna go with Volko, right? Anyways, I always love it when they bring up like the whole Happy Meal toys thing, because that was one of the big things of why Tim Burton ended up not doing Batman Forever, because they couldn't sell Happy Meals, even though there was Happy Meal toys for Batman Returns. I remember the little cars, they all had like their special little cars. I had all 4 of them. So I still bought the fucking Happy Meals. But you know how it is. Good old Warner Brothers. It really was personal for me and for Zach and for many of the actors. So of course, talking about the Cyborg arc. Is it true you were banned from the Justice League set? I wouldn't say that I was banned. The studios, the attitude was, we'll take it from here. I was frankly shocked when I saw the Snyder Cut and saw how much of the original script was shot. With some small revisions, they shot the script, and I understand that sometimes that was a battle for Zach. Of course, we know Zach had a battle with like getting fed fucking stupid bullshit lines from Emmerich and Johns and whatever the fuck. Hey, you talk to fish. Call him Lightning Lad. I don't know. There's a lot of such crap. How did you feel about the version that Joss Whedon assembled after Zach left the project? When those personal touches were removed from the film in the 2017 version, I was silent because I couldn't really say anything. But of course, it hurt. All that remained was a dinosaur skeleton of what had been a great lumbering beast. It might have been a big, unruly beast, and obviously it's 4 hours, and the movie is maximalist, and it's operatic, and sure, it's a little crazy, but I think the movie is crazy in the best way. Abso-fucking-lutely. That's what I'm talking about. It is crazy in the best way, isn't it, guys? I love that. All right. Can we start at the beginning with Zach? You worked on Batman vs Superman. Can I assume that was a good experience, at least with him, since you signed on to another movie? Ben Affleck called me and said he was working on this film, which was a Superman film in which he was going to play Batman. So I asked if I could read the script and consider doing a rewrite. No, so yeah, he said that. Okay. He asked if I would do some character work. So I was already determined and storyboarded that Batman was going to be trying to kill Superman and that Batman was going to have gone down a dark road. He was branding criminals, and it had certain dark elements that were non-negotiable and already in the story. So, there was already pieces of it that he was working with. He just had to shape it up a little better, What did Affleck want you to do? My job was to create a story and a tone, really, in which Batman could be that person, in which two heroes could get to the point where they're fighting to the death. What was your approach? I came into it thinking the only way that this could work is as a fever dream or a revenge tragedy. I thought, how do we create a story in which Bruce Wayne is traumatized by the war of Krypton coming to Earth, in which he enters into this kind of madness? He becomes Captain Ahab, and he won't listen to saner voices like Alfred, for example, who are telling him to just see reason. He's a man possessed, which they show that so perfectly right in that opening scene, the opening Alfred and the first Alfred and Bruce Wayne scene, when he just drops the newspaper down and says new rules. I mean, all right there, you already know that Bruce Wayne is down a dark path, and the way that he responds to it, saying, "We've always been criminals, Alfred." It's like he just came up with an excuse right there. So the film was dark by its nature. As I worked on the movie, it seemed to me that it was a snapshot of what I was feeling on the ground in the country, which maybe didn't become apparent until the madness and division that came about from the last presidency. I thought this superhero movie could be about getting into our worst natures and then coming out of that into a redemption, which is what Justice League is pretty much, that's what it is. Just the way that you see Bruce flip from not being the cynical asshole who didn't give a shit. He was like, all right, hey, faith, Alfred, faith. What did you want to avoid? I didn't want to make it a sitcom joke that Batman and Superman are trying to kill each other. If I'm going to work on this movie, it's going to be a dark, operatic, and it's going to be uncomfortable. Zach and I come from very different approaches to filmmaking, but I immediately liked him because it isn't cynical and he wears his heart on his sleeve. I'm cynical enough for any room that I enter into. Wow. So I can't wait to hear him actually talk on interviews, man, because I'm kind of curious if he's like, cynical. Man, that's funny. How did things develop from there? I wrote drafts of Batman Superman movie, which wasn't called Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice by me. I did not name the script. In fact, I found out what the movie was called along with the rest of the world on the internet. I was not consulted on the title of the film, and I was surprised as anyone. I would not have named it Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Ooh, I'm kind of curious about that one. So, I think there was like an interview where Zach talked about pitching that title to the studio, but it makes you wonder, and I would love to, if I was talking to both of them, it's like, what were the running titles? What were some of the titles you guys were thinking? Because, yeah, Dawn of Justice, this was supposed to be a Batman and Superman film, at its core, about these two, larger-than-life superheroes battling it out. And then you put this Dawn of Justice, where it's like, oh, yeah, this is going to lead into a Justice League. There's all kinds of, it is kind of interesting, and it almost makes you wonder if the studio was hounding Zach to hey, remember, we're setting up the Justice League. There's got to be something in there. Well, how about Dawn of Justice? So it kind of makes you wonder. Yeah, Zach's noted he would have just named it Dawn of Justice. Okay. So he did say that. Yeah, so I'm kind of curious, but I wonder what other running titles they had as opposed to that. Was that Zach's choice? I don't know exactly who named it, but I suspect it was the studio, and I suspect it was marketing, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like SEO when you're trying to like optimize a headline. I mean, what better headline than to have Batman versus Superman? And of course they took the S off, and it was just Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Kind of works. I mean, I think we're all okay with the title, but I just kind of curious of what it was at first. I might have been. It might have been the first step toward creating ill will for the film. I suspect that putting the words Batman and Superman into the title had some marketing component to it. Well, yeah. I mean, it does. See, that's the thing. There's a marketing. So that makes me wonder, like, was it, I get like what Eric said, it was just going to be Dawn of Justice, not have Batman or Superman in it. I think you're right that the title did rub people the wrong way. I heard it and I thought it just sounds self-important and clueless in a way. Tone deaf. Oof. The intention of the film was to do something interesting and dark and complex, not quite as Las Vegas bust 'em up WWE match as Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice. Throwing shade, Mr. Terrio, at the title. Yeah, like I said, as fans, we've lived with the title for 5-6 years, so I think we're all right with it. But I think a lot of people just call it BVS. How did you feel about the version of BVS that was first released? I was proud of the script when I completed it, but it turns out that when you remove the 30 minutes that give the characters motivation for the climax, the film just doesn't work. As we learned from the 2 versions of Justice League, you can't skip on the character and think the audience will give a shit about the VFX. Exactly. The stuff was later restored in the extended version. I guess it's called the Ultimate Edition, remastered and released on HBO Max this March. Yes, that. So this House of Cards that had been built in order to motivate this clash between America's 2 favorite heroes made no sense at all. That was what happened with Batman Superman. The movie was always going to be dark. There were always going to be people who just didn't want to see that version of a comic book world, and I get that. But what hurt was the criticism that the script was not coherent, because when I turned in the script to the studio, which they, by all accounts, were happy with, made sense. Hey, how about that? Warner Brothers was actually happy with the script that he turned in. How about that, huh? What was your relationship with Zach? Good. I have nothing whatsoever bad to say about Zach. What? That seems to be the common thing. Yet, these fucking soggy little mushy blogger type guys out there, for some reason, try to pin Zack Snyder as this horrible person while defending the actual horrible person that got brought in to shape up Justice League. Isn't that weird? It's weird. They're defending their own. Anyways, yeah, whatsoever. He has a skill set that I don't have as a visualist, and he has a contagious excitement. Yes, he does. That when you describe a scene, he almost can't contain himself, and he just wants to go draw it or paint it. Zach never for a second turned his back on me or doubted my work. There you go. Sounds like a pretty good guy. After Batman Superman, I love the fact that when he refers to BVS, he just calls it Batman Superman. After Batman Superman, many of my Hollywood friends just stopped talking to me because they sort of thought that somehow I was complicit in this very public failure of a studio film. That is fucked up. You learn pretty quickly who your real friends are and who your air kiss Hollywood friends are. Zach could not have been more supportive and never stopped believing that together we were going to create this big, epic DC world. Man, this big, epic DC world, man, I tell you what. Yes. Cough. How do you feel when that journey ended prematurely with Justice League's upheaval? I went into such, this is sad right here. I went into such depression when the film was taken away and rewritten, but I didn't even feel entitled to be depressed because Zach and Debbie Snyder, we know who that is, were dealing with their family tragedy. Measured against that, losing the film that you wrote seems like nothing at all. But it did hurt. It hurts to think that I cared so much about these characters and worked on nothing else for a very long time. Yeah, that's got to suck, man. Something you work very hard on just gets ripped out of your hands, just like that. Just like that, man. Do you feel like the title and the cuts for length made it harder for people to appreciate things that did work in Batman vs Superman? That's exactly right. The audience has to know what they're in. The audience has to know that they're in good hands. The minute that you lose them from a story point of view, they lose the desire to look at it generously. Once the critics decide a movie is incoherent, it's just a pile-on. Then they attack everything. Yeah, they're still attacking everything. That's what's funny, McWeenie. There's a line at the beginning of the film where a warlord says to Lois Lane, "They didn't tell me the interview was with a lady." And Lois replies, "I'm not a lady, I'm a journalist." So one reviewer held up this line as proof of my stupidity and my inability to write Lois or to write it at all. I mean, that's one of the that's a Lois Lane line. I think we can all agree that, hello, that's something Lois Lane would actually say. So whatever critic that was, and hopefully it wasn't a critic that has, snow cone cherry hair and black rimmed glasses. Probably, let's hope it's not the case. But that critic just doesn't know Lois Lane then, because that's a perfect Lois Lane line. I think we can all agree to that. Well, the character of Lois in the movie was inspired by the journalist Mary Colvin, who was, of course, killed in Syria. She was one of the most intrepid journalists who ever lived, in my opinion. And there's a story in Vanity Fair, Mary Colvin's Private War by Mary Brenner. And the line that Lois says is almost exactly the line that was in the article where a Chechen, yeah, I'm probably saying that wrong, said he would shake her hand because she was a woman, or he wouldn't shake her hand because she was a woman. Mary Colvin replied, "There is no woman in this room, only a journalist." So yeah, there you go. I mean, come on. So the line was my tribute to her, but then in the pile-on, a line like that is held as proof positive that I don't understand either women or journalists or human beings, and that I'm a shitty writer. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Sounds like you feel you lost people before you even saw it. That was the climate in which the film dropped. Anything and everything was attacked because the reviewers questioned the motives behind the film. And in some extent, I don't blame them. The marketing promised this mindless fight movie, and any attempt to make something real or complicated was just met with anger and vitriol because the audience just didn't assume good intentions. Yeah, no, Jesus Christ, man. Another complaint was that Snyder's DC films were too grim and heavy. Did you feel blamed for that? The studio seemed to take this position after BVS that my writing was too dark and that this was their problem. But what they didn't mention was that, for example, in the draft of Batman Superman script that WB had developed, which was the draft I was handed when I joined the project, Batman was not only branding criminals with a bat brand, he also ended the movie by branding Lex Luthor. Remember the shot at the end in the jail cell? That ending was a point over which I explicitly went to the mat with the studio again and again. I argued that Batman cannot end the movie continuing this behavior, which amounted to torture, because the movie was endorsing what he did. So Warner Brothers wanted Batman to keep on doing the bad things that he was doing. No redemption, no character growth. Isn't that kind of funny? How Warner Brothers actually wanted him to continue branding people. I mean, as much as it would have been kind of interesting if he branded Lex Luthor on his fucking, newly bald shaven head, that would have been interesting. But I think the ending that we got was a lot better. The fact that he just, punched the wall and made the bat in the wall. I think that was perfectly symbolic of, hey, I part of me wants to brand you, motherfucker, but you know what? I'm just going to punch the wall and I'm going to leave the symbol right there, right in the wall. What was your argument to them? It's one thing if Batman begins the movie as a dark version of himself, whom we don't recognize, but he has to see the error of his ways and remember his better self in the course of the movie. By the end of the movie, he needs to be the Batman we know. And he has to be ready to go and create the Justice League. Otherwise, I said, what was the point? Exactly. God damn it. It's the fact that oh man, that is hilarious. What else did you push back against? I'm the one who had been saying that we can't make a joke out of Superman raining hell upon Black African Muslim characters in the desert, as Lois promises that Superman is not going to go easy on them because they punched her. Wow. But somehow I'm the person with the dark sensibility. They were going to make a joke out of the Africa scene. They wanted to make a joke out of it. I wanted to say, I've been saving you from yourselves. I've been working with the director to bring a voice of conscious insanity to almost perversely dark film, you've been developing for years, but I'm the problem? God, he is just throwing shade, just bullets at Warner Brothers. Like, wait, I'm actually lightening up the bullshit you guys handed me. Jesus Christ. Man, they wanted to make a joke out of the Africa scene. Holy shit. Again, Warner Brothers, what are you doing? Did you feel you were able to significantly change that Africa scene with Superman for the better? I removed the punch of Lois, so they were going to punch Lois. That's good. For one thing, just think about the optics of that. I was able to add material. Yeah, exactly. Think about the optics. Oh, man. I was able to add material to the film and asked the movie to grapple with what that battle meant so that it didn't seem like a casual scene of Superman intervening in this way without reckoning with the consequences of intervention. Yes, I placed that in context of a moral question. Superman says, think of what could have happened. And then, of course, Lois goes, think of what did, which is a great exchange right there before she got knocked up. The sequence takes place in a fictional African country called Nairobi, and there's manipulation happening with Lex Luthor and his American mercenaries trying to provoke conflict to frame Superman. After Superman rescues Lois, the film shows the people of that region truly suffering in the crossfire. Without sounding too political, it's not lost on me that much like a drone, Superman sort of comes from out of nowhere, from the sky, and vanquishes his enemies and then flies off with no consequences. That may not have been the angle of Superman that people wanted to see and I wanted to think about. Yeah, that's the fucking version of Superman I wanted to see. I think we all can agree with that. Jesus Christ. Did you also add the scene with the character of Kahina Ziri, who was a witness to the battle, testifying about the aftermath in Washington, D.C.? Ultimately, we learn she was coerced by Luthor, but her testimony does make the audience and Clark Kent himself reevaluate his actions and how he operates. Yeah. And he answers, yeah, that was added afterwards. I added that scene. He came down and then came fire. The story that she tells, at least in the script, is that he destabilized the entire region, and then government forces came in and slaughtered the village. Since these were the optics that were already were in the movie, I thought that my job was ask the questions: what do we actually mean by this? Sorry if I jacked that up a little bit. You're pushing back against one of these scenes. You're pushing back against some of these scenes, and you're saying that the studio wanted these things, but you also had to convince Zack, right? So was Zack Snyder open to these kinds of criticisms? When I would talk to Zack about some of these things, I think he got it. We discovered that we were on the same page and that he loved the idea of a scene in Congress with this African woman describing the consequences in her village. He right away sparked to that and got excited about casting that character, which actor Wunmi Masaku, sorry if I, of course, messed that up. She was in Lovecraft Country. I think there's another movie that she's coming out in too, I believe, and thought she could be a very important character for the movie. So Zack was quite open to all this stuff, and I thought the studio was too. So see, Zack was just like, yeah. Why weren't they? Later, when I realized that so much of the plot was going to be cut out, I began to think, well, they didn't really want this kind of story. The last things to get cut out, always are the stunt scenes and the special effects scenes because they cost too much. They cost so much. By the time they're all in there in the assembly, enormous amounts of money have been spent on every frame. So when you're looking to cut time, the things that get cut out tend not to be the big effect sequences or fights or stunt sequences. The things that get cut are the nuance. Yes. Yeah. The scenes that actually give meaning to those bigger action sequences. I think that's the problem, not only with this film, but I suppose for all temple films. There you go, Terrio. That's right. It's like, what warrants this big, huge battle? There has to be a foundation of why. Nothing wrong with that, right, guys? Come on. Nothing wrong with that. Given your concerns about the BBS structure you inherited, why did you sign on to Justice League? I agreed to write Justice League because I wanted the chance to write these characters with love and hope after getting through the darkness of Batman vs Superman. The end of my version of Batman vs Superman includes Bruce seeing the error of his ways and promising to change. It's the return of conscience after an ethical nightmare, and in Justice League, Bruce does do better. Yes, he does. After Batman vs Superman came out and the critical reaction was negative and the box office was underwhelming, Justice League was about to begin shooting. What was the atmosphere like then? There was a mood of fear at the studio. No doubt, my impression was that the people in boardrooms started making the decisions, and they were decisions based on arbitrary metrics that had nothing to do with the stories that were being told. Yeah. What gave you that sense? Right before the time of Batman Superman, I was asked to attend an event in New York where the cast and filmmakers were paraded in front of a room of investors at the Time Warner Center, I guess to convince them that their money was in good hands. That's kind of gross. If you think about it, it's like you're walking around just like looking at all these rich people like, hey, that's right. We're doing this. Hi guys. Wow. That's parading yourself. That's just weird, but that's Hollywood, I guess, right? What happened there? These guys were in charge because they controlled the money at the very top of the pyramid. They were making big decisions, not the film executives were talking about, but the hell was that? I just heard a beep. That was weird. Was that my printer? I don't know. Tripped me out. But the Wall Street guys, one guy who I can only describe as the man whose central casting sends you when you're trying to cast douchebag number one, pulled me aside and started telling me how to write Batman. I'm not naive. I know. Oh, it's somebody's squeaky brakes out there. That's what was making that noise. Jeez. Yeah, it does. It kind of does. Living in apartments and you get all this other noise. I'm not naive. I know that if you don't want to have any back and forth with the money people, then you should write poetry because you don't need hundreds of millions of dollars. But something about the distribution of power at the time just seemed off to me. It was removing even the pretense that capital wasn't calling the shots. Crazy. What impact did these studio tensions have on your writing? I rewrote Justice League to lighten the mood a little bit, which became the Zack Snyder's Justice League. Okay, we heard about this, how they rewrote it because of reception and because of everything to lighten up the tone. It's a slightly lighter, less dense version of the script, which I was fine with. I'm sane, and I will play ball with those kinds of notes. Okay, so he did his job. And he was happy with it. That's the thing. Both Zach and Chris were happy about the script that they rewrote that had a slightly lighter tone than what they previously had. So Zack Snyder shot your version of the script. What happened after his family crisis led him to leave the project and Warner Brothers brought in Joss Whedon to rewrite and reshoot? When the movie was taken away, that felt like it was some directive that had come from people who are neither filmmakers nor film friendly. Duh. The directive to make the movie under 2 hours, regardless of what the movie needed to do, and to make the colors brighter and to have funny sitcom jokes in it. Ugh. Zack told me that when Warner Brothers chairman Kevin Tsujihara's mandate that it be under 2 hours and more comedic. Yeah, that's what I heard also. I never had anything direct with him, Tsujihara, as far as I could tell, and the brass at the very top decided the order of the films. I was not consulted on the order of the films, even though I was the person writing Justice League. They just determined that it was going to be Batman, Superman, and then Wonder Woman, then Justice League, and then Aquaman. So yeah, he's talking, and then Aquaman. So there was never any thought to how the world was constructed before they issued this edict, and they said conform to this schedule. So it always is kind of weird how they kind of were trying to construct this universe. I mean, I dig the whole Superman 5-part story arc, but it almost seems like, was that originally going to be the case, or were there actually going to be other things first? But then at the same time, I like the fact that, and I'm sure Zach and Chris are probably loving the fact that they did it differently than what Marvel did, because, you know, obviously there's always that argument about, hey, it should be solo movies first. It's like, shut up. Explain how that complicated things. But see, this is where he explains right here how other movies in development kind of like messed some things up. He said the Wonder Woman script wasn't even finished when I wrote Justice League, so I had no basis to write Wonder Woman other than Batman, Superman. Themyscira didn't even exist. I was never shown anything on the page for it. I didn't know whether people could talk underwater. See, that's another thing. That was a thing that I had to ask, because I didn't know if I could do underwater scenes with Aquaman and Atlanteans. It was all just from scratch because there had been no solo character films. So Justice League needed to establish 3 of the characters. It had to create a long game mythology for the DC universe. It had to resurrect Superman because he was dead at the end of the last movie. I just don't know how you could do all that in under 2 hours. Maybe in the 2017 release proved that you couldn't. Yeah, it definitely proved that you couldn't, because it was dog shit. Studio co-presidents John Berg and Jeff Johns were on the Justice League set every day, which was a mandate from Tsujihara to babysit Snyder. As he put it, what was your relationship with them? Look, okay, so I know some people are going to be like, man, I wish you would just go after Jeff Johns. But that's not going to be the case, and it's perfectly fine, okay? He's being a professional here. As much as he's sticking and throwing some shade at Warner Brothers, he's not going to go fully after Mr. Ballcap guy. But he says, look, I admire Jeff as a writer of DC Comics. I think we can all admire him as a writer of the comic books. He's made some classic comic books, yes, for sure. He's been nice to me, and it's a perfectly cordial relationship. As an executive, you get into very thorny territory when you have a person who's a writer who also is making executive decisions and sitting in the chair where on other films the writer would have been. So, yeah, I can say more about that. So I think it's miraculous that Zach shot as much of my script as he did, because I know that there were constant pressure to simplify, to change, to do whatever it is that the studio wanted, because there were rumblings that they didn't want this version. Yeah, they kept feeding him lines, and that's why Zach, being the craftsman that he is, was like, all right, I'll shoot your bullshit lines, and then I'm going to shoot mine. Did you have any interactions with the actors? I wasn't invited to the set, but obviously I know Ben. That's crazy that he wasn't invited to the set. The writer of the movie, not invited to the set. But obviously I know Ben, and I got to know Ray Fisher. We developed Cyborg together. Ray came to my apartment in East Village, and he and I just would take long walks and talk about Cyborg and the responsibility of putting the first Black DC superhero in a movie on screen. That was a big responsibility that we both understood and took very seriously. Remember, this was before Black Panther. There obviously have been some Black superheroes over the years, but none depicted with such a budget and in such scale and in such a mainstream way. Cyborg is the one character that can't disguise himself. He lives in his skin. His otherness is a constant fact of his life, and that, to me, and Ray and I discussed this, speaks about being a Black man in America. You cannot remove the otherness that people force upon you, and therefore Cyborg, when he becomes the hero that he always should have been and was meant to be, that felt like something really strong and that we wanted the world to see. But you can't have an angry black man at the center of this Justice League movie, right, guys? Jesus Christ. It's amazing how, like, they were trying to go in depth with all this, and, the other guys were like, nah, can't do that. It's going to make us look bad. Going to make us look bad, guys. Ugh. Everybody okay in the live chat there? We're good? Okay, just making sure. What about any of the other performers? Did you consult with any of them? I talked to Jeremy Irons on the phone. That's awesome. I had a correspondence with Gal Gadot where she would write to me and say, this doesn't seem quite right for the character. What do you think? And it was all a really good relationship where all the roles would be bespoke to the actors. So it seems like he had a good communication with the actors. That's pretty good. When the Snyders left the project, what was effectively the end of your involvement? That was effectively the end of your involvement. Is that right? That's right. I would only hear occasional reports about the reshoot. I didn't realize how much of the film was going to be changed. We all didn't. Or vandalized, in my opinion. I love the fact that he said that. I didn't realize how much the film was going to be changed or vandalized. I love the fact that he used vandalized. That's fucking awesome. It became clear as I spoke to various actors that it was a wholesale dismantling of what had been there before. I did not hear from anyone who said it was a pleasant experience. Exactly. Were you hearing anything about Joss Whedon and his management of the set? I probably shouldn't go into that. I never met Joss. I don't know him. I did reach out to him at the beginning of the process through the executives, but I didn't hear back, which is not unusual. The fact that he said I probably shouldn't go into that leads me to tell me that he was probably talking to his buddy Ben Affleck. Maybe. How many times have I told you guys that he was trying to do a walk-off? He wanted the whole cast to walk off the set of the reshoots. I've said that over the last couple of years. So I'm pretty sure he heard some stuff from Mr. Affleck. When did you watch his version of Justice League? I was in LA at the time working on Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, which also got dicked with. I was on the west side of Los Angeles working with JJ at the time, and I drove to the studio and sat down and watched it a couple of weeks before release. I immediately called my lawyer and said, I want to take my name off the film. The lawyer then called Warner Brothers and told them that I wanted to do that. Why didn't you? Prints had already been struck or hard drives burned or however they deliver movies these days. The elements were on their way, and to remove my name, they would have to restrike the prints or redo the digital copies, and the film would be delayed. Damn, that sucks. To watch it and go, oh my God, this is going to ruin my career. This is going to ruin my career. It's going to ruin it. My career's over with. And they can't do anything about it. Just imagine that. Imagine, we talk about, I feel bad for the cast when they had to watch the whole fucking movie, specifically Cavill when it opens up with his fucked up weird smashed face. It's like, imagine Terrio, who has his name in the writing credits with Joss Whedon, and it's that shit sandwich. My God. It would have been an international scandal and news story. That would have been fun. So I shut up and said nothing publicly. I've never said anything about Justice League since then, and the movie doesn't represent my work. Amen. Amen. What happened after that? As far as I know, I wasn't invited to the premiere, and I never watched the film again. Good for you. Yeah, he was not at the premiere, just like Snyder wasn't at the premiere either. But that was Snyder's choice, of course. So why not follow through and remove your name? I think it would have created a whole wave of negative publicity that I think would have made the situation even worse for the actors and for all the craftspeople who had worked on it, for all kinds of people. I'm awfully happy that Zack Snyder's cut of Justice League is the one that is higher on my IMDb page. Yes, 100%. Something that was this big and prominent and then so widely derided, it kind of poisons your reputation, doesn't it? yeah, it hurts your reputation, but more importantly, it poisons your soul and your confidence, especially when this other version of the film wasn't seen. And now that it has been seen, people do have problems with this version of the film, and they quibble with the length, and they'll quibble with the way that certain characters are written. But that I could take, because that is actual critique of my work. That's fair game, and that I'll engage with any day. People can quarrel with the movie, but at least they're quarreling with my version and with Zach's version of the film. So very well said right there. Smart man, this Chris Terrio. I think he's going places. Did you ever feel like they deliberately made you the scapegoat, the studio? This is where we kind of dig into Terrio's psyche right here a little bit. He lets out his inner his feelings right here. He says right here, I'm a deeply paranoid person, so I'm always assuming that everyone has it in for me. Justice League, the Zack Snyder version, is the only script other than Argo that I have sole writer credit on. I really did develop this. I could stand by this version, love it or hate it. So he's a paranoid person, always thinking somebody's in. And hey, the fact that he can open up on that, that's pretty cool. And then finally, the last question. What are you working on right now? What's on the horizon? I won't talk about it quite yet, but it's a small film that I'm doing with Amazon. I'm getting back to smaller character-driven worlds where I don't have any of the franchise issues that have been difficult to grapple with in the past. That's really helped me to reground myself and remind myself of why I like to write a film. Bam. Good job, Mr. Terrio. Hands, applause. Good job. Very well spoken. Very well said. We love to see it. We love to see it. We love to freaking see it, man. So there you go, guys. That is the entirety of Chris Terrio right there. And don't think that's going to be it. It's not going to be it. He'll talk about it more. But that was pretty in-depth. I mean, to go from, they started right at the beginning, right when he got hired on for Batman vs. Superman to now. So I'm just glad that he came out. And he's finally starting to talk about all this stuff. So it's good. It's real good. It's good. Yeah. So I love it. Absolutely love it. Good job, Mr. Chris Terrio. And it's still not going to be the end. There's still going to be more stuff that's going to be coming out. And we'll see. There's still something that has to still be fully, confirmed. If you guys know what that is. But more shade will be thrown. But I just love the fact that we had the THR article from Kim Masters that talked about more about what was going on. And then of course we have this one right here. I loved this one because when I caught wind, I was like, wait. Who's going to start fucking speaking? Who's going to start talking? What? It got me excited. That definitely got me excited. As much as I wanted to hear more about the bad shit, I wanted to hear what Terio had to fucking say. Let's get him to start singing. And it just makes you wonder who's next. Who's going to come out? As much as we want Ben to, and I really hope he eventually does. But it's, he's still Ben Affleck movie star who works a lot with Warner Brothers, But it just kind of makes you wonder, with everything that's happening right now and the response to Zack Snyder's Justice League, and yeah, man, if I could just talk to that guy too, man, that'd be sweet. But yeah, it would be pretty awesome if Ben was next. Just come out and be like, hey, wait a minute, because he's a smart man. He's a smart dude. And the fact that he was saying all that streaming stuff back in 2003, and now that HBO Max was like, hey, HBO Max is right there. It's created a solution with the whole pandemic thing. Sure, we could still, as things start opening up, it's like, yeah, of course, go to the movies, please. But we can also have this option too. Let's work out a deal. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if hearing the response from Warner Media from Anne, maybe who knows? I don't know. I just hope that he actually comes out and says some shit. I don't know. We'll see. You're gonna start talking? Start talking, Jose. What do you have to say about all this? What do you have to say, huh? What do you have to say? A lot of respect. Yeah. Yeah. Right, Jason? A lot of respect for Terrio for doing that. I mean, to keep a lid on that for 5 years, man. For 5 years. That'd be crazy. I don't know. I don't know, Eric. Considering Terrio's specific reasons for why he wrote J.O., would he want to write a nightmare filled? I don't know. That's an interesting that's an interesting kind of question though too that I was having. Like, if hopefully when if they announce, if they decide to continue to fully restore the Snyderverse and do the sequels, would Terrio come back and write the scripts? Because they have the whole story mapped out, but I don't know if they actually. That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, well, maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe he did have the scripts. Man, I'm like, now I'm drawing blanks, trying to remember all my information here. Did they actually have the scripts? I think they might have, actually. I don't know. Maybe because they had them planned. I don't know. See, now I'm like losing my thought. I'm like, wait, did they already have the scripts for Justice League 2 and 3? I mean, I'm sure they had outlines, and maybe he was beginning to work on those scripts. Trying to remember my information here. Shit. But it just kind of makes me wonder if would he come back and fully be like, all right, let's get back onto these scripts, or would he just be like, you know what, I'm good. I'm gonna do other projects. I don't want to do this anymore. Because we got to remember, he also he's like, hey, I got a Star Wars gig, and then look what happened with that. When is he going to start talking about what happened with Star Wars? That's what I want to know, because that was kind of a shit show too. A lot of there's things that worked, but it was just it's just so much crammed into that 2.5 hours or whatever the hell it was. Should have been way longer. But I kind of wonder, like, what's his thought process on Rise of Skywalker? That's what I wonder too. When is he going to start talking about that? Probably won't be for a while. I don't know. But good on him. I'm glad that he was able to say all this, and then same with Ben. Ben wouldn't come back if anyone. Yeah, exactly. Yesaka. Yeah, and that's why I even said, I was like, if they're going to do additional photography, Ben will come back for Zach, and he did. He made time for Zach. And I think when it comes to, and it's kind of funny how that is, if they were going to do Justice League 2 and 3, like film back to back, because I think that's the only way that they would be able to. That's a long shoot. That's going to be, remember when they did Infinity War and Endgame, right? That was like almost a year shoot or something like that. If they were going to do Justice League 2 and 3, man, it would be difficult, because this time around, you're not just having like one movie star and then a couple of people that are up and coming. Now you have full on fucking movie stars. And, and what's funny about it is, I think Ben Affleck would be easier to get back to do all that more than Gal Gadot, because now she's like this crazy, and she got all these projects, including one in her belly that, that she has to be doing. But of course, this, they wouldn't start shooting till like another year or two. But, Cavill's like this big star now, Jason Momoa is this big star now. And then, Ezra Miller, who's like pretty much a known guy now. Ray Fisher, Ray Fisher should be more known now. I think he is through all this, which is great. And hopefully he gets more gigs because of what happened and everything like that. He is now becoming a household name. Sadly, it wasn't mainly for like his work. It was mainly for what's been happening lately. But I'm just glad that people are finally seeing that, hey, wow, this guy is a really good actor. He was the heart of the film. He almost made me cry. How many times? Miller's not a big star, but he's known. He's in a whole other franchise. So there is that. So Gal doesn't believe Wonder Woman should behead people. I know. See, that's the thing. I think she would be she'd be like the hardest one to get, especially after all that. It is kind of funny. You kind of wonder how does Gal feel about, we had the Wonder Woman 84 version, which was the hope and optimism and just the lighter version. There's still scenes in there that I very much enjoyed, but then you see her, 4 months later, 3 months later, 3.5 months later, all of a sudden she's back at that warrior badass chick, and you're just going, opening scene. She's just throwing dudes into walls. The other time, when we saw her previous, she was just lassoing it up, and in a mall, basically doing a dance. Yes, I did a little shimmy right there. You guys enjoy that? It's a good way to end the stream today. Not that I don't mind her doing that, but when you compare the opening Wonder Woman scene in Zack Snyder's Justice League to the mall scene in Wonder Woman 84, wow. I mean, talk about contrast right there. My God. So, oh man. So, but whatever. It's fine. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. I still love her Wonder Woman like crazy. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with having different versions of Wonder Woman. Some of us just prefer the other ones. I mean, I do want to go back and watch Wonder Woman 84 now after watching Zack Snyder's Justice League, just gonna see, because I went back and watched Aquaman and I was like, ooh, wow, this movie hits different now. It definitely does hit differently than it did before. It's still good. I still enjoyed Aquaman. Some things, but James Wan still fucking pulled it off. I mean, that's not an easy character to pull off, and he pulled it off. And Momoa's still great. Everything's still pretty great in there, but it just hits a little differently now. It's like, oh, so yeah. And, Wonder Woman 84, is, that's just an offshoot. I mean, that's not canon to this Snyder version. It just isn't. I mean, there's no talk, just no mention of it, no nothing. So it's definitely not. But, an argument could be said too. I mean, Aquaman's slightly an offshoot where it's not there's some things where you kind of go, I don't know about this, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see about that. Anyways, guys, all right, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Appreciate you guys clicking in and listening to me going over that article. I figured, why not do it live? And of course, it's always fun and everything. So appreciate it, guys. You guys are awesome. And hit that like, thumbs up before you leave. If you want to join Film Junkie, hit the join button. If you want to join Patreon, please do so. That helps out the pirate ship. And thank you to the patrons out there that have been there, that are helping support the pirate ship. Appreciate it. And then, of course, you want to check out the merchandise in the Film Junkie closet, go check it out, guys. And it's vodka stream tomorrow. The patrons already know who's going to be on the show. So make sure you tune in tomorrow, of course, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Should be some good times. And basically, hello, Warner Brothers. How's your week been? Sure, when the article came out, they, of course, reacted like,
don't do this to me. God!
Oh, man. And remember,
I believe Joss Whedon.
Sure, buddy. That's fine. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Didn't work.